and one of the least known. Lacking either a reservation or official federal recognition, some 35,000 Lumbee, formerly known as the Croatoan tribe, cling tenaciously to ancestral lands in rural Robeson County, which they share, at times uneasily, with 40,000 whites and 25,000 blacks. Historians theorize that the Lumbee's ancestors absorbed the missing white settlers of the famous Lost Colony founded by Sir Walter Raleigh on the Virginia coast in the 1580s. The only clue to the colonists' disappearance was the word Croatoan carved on a tree. When Europeans moved into North Carolina's deep interior in the 1700s, they found an English-speaking tribe of Indians, often fair-skinned and blue-eyed, who practiced their own form of Christianity. Apparently, having fled the encroaching white settlers on the Virginia and North Carolina coasts, the ancestors of today's Lumbee sought refuge in the dark, foreboding swamps along the Lumber River. Vernon Cooper, 84, on our first visit in 1989, is a direct link to those events of 4 centuries ago.
My grandmother passed the healing power on to me from her deathbed in 1917. She said this ability was a gift that had been given to our family for 400 years. She told me, "You will be the last one with that gift in our family. There will never be another one. You'll finish out the 400 years." When my daughter was born, I prayed the prophecy would be changed, that she would become a healer too, but it wasn't to be. There are a few others here who work with herbs. I passed on what I could, but the gift of healing with your hands, that can't be passed on. I only wish I could. There's nothing happens to a person that can't be cured if you get what it takes to do it. We come out of the earth, and there's something in the earth to cure everything. In the old days, before my time, it took only a single herb to cure a person. Now it takes a combination. Trouble is, you can't find most of the herbs and roots around here anymore. All those farm chemicals have killed them off. You've got to go up in the hills to find them, and I'm getting too old for that anymore. Everything I know I learned by listening and watching. Nowadays people learn out of books instead. Doctors study what man has learned. I pray to understand what man has forgotten. I don't fix a tonic until I'm sure what's wrong with a person. I don't make guesses. I have to be sure because medicine can do bad as well as good, and I don't want to hurt anybody. Whatever the Lord shows me, that's what I'm going to do. Maybe it takes some herbs, maybe it takes some touching, but most of all it takes faith. The gift my grandmother passed on is diagnosing and healing by touch, by laying on of hands. We call it rubbing. I rub people with my hands to find the sickness. I pray to the Lord for help. If the patient has faith, the fever will come right out, right into my hands. I can feel the heat in my fingers. Sometimes the skin peels right off my hands. I can feel the patient's pain like an electric shock. My veins swell up for days. Feel this lump in my hand? I got that from a man I treated. Came right out of his hand into mine. I asked the Lord to let me have it. It never went away. You got to be careful with these things. There's no heavier burden than being a healer. Sometimes I get real tired. I work all night, night after night, one patient after another. Maybe I get to bed at 1 or 2 in the morning. Then at 5 someone's knocking on my door and it starts all over. That's the way it was for years, though I'm slowing down now. People ask me why I don't take a vacation so I could get over being tired. But I tell them I don't want any vacation. If I got rested up, why I'd just start working even harder and get tired all over again. So I just as soon stay tired. I haven't got time for vacations. I've not finished my work in this world yet. Vacations would only delay my time of reaching that wondrous land I'm going to. It won't be long now, so I'm going to finish what the Lord put me here to do. Then when I go to that other place, I'll be able to rest and never be interrupted again. I can tell you I'm looking forward to that. I just wasn't cut out for the age we're living in. Everybody's hurrying, but nobody's going anywhere. People aren't living, they're only existing. They're growing away from spiritual realities. These days people seek knowledge, not wisdom. Knowledge is of the past, wisdom is of the future. We're in an age now when people are slumbering. They think they're awake, yet they're really sleeping. But this is a dangerous age, the most dangerous in human history. People need to wake up. They can't hear God's voice if they're asleep. Heavy equipment and light-minded people have destroyed just about everything nature has provided. Well, we can't keep ruining the earth and poisoning it and think we can get away with it. Certain destruction is going to hit one of these days. We're on the verge of a change such as has never been before. God is going to intervene. I'm tired now. Been feeling poorly lately. Haven't been able to gather any herbs since Thanksgiving last year. I've been even more tired than usual. Maybe I'll get that long-awaited rest pretty soon. Anyway, you come back another time if you like. I'm always glad to work with anyone looking for the betterment of the coming generation. But you fellows see you write it all down right. If you write it wrong, people believe it wrong.
Oren Lyons, Onondaga. The stern-faced Oren Lyons, faithkeeper of the Turtle Clan of the Onondaga Nation and spokesman for the Six Nations Iroquois Confederacy, sits across a wooden table from us in his log cabin on the Onondaga Reservation, a few miles south of Syracuse, New York. Its night and the harsh light of a single kerosene lantern casts sharp shadows against the walls and beam ceiling.
I prefer no electricity. And no phones. That's important.
In one corner, shrouded in shadow, hangs an assemblage of ceremonial masks, faces turned to the wall.
We show their faces only during ceremonies, and we never allow photographs of our ceremonies, so don't even think of asking.
He gives us a long, hard look and shakes his head.
Why come to us? We're the toughest nut to crack. You think we turn our elders over to anyone who walks in the door?
He leans forward, elbows planted on the table. His eyes probe us.
We guard them like pure spring water. So what is it you guys want from the elders? Secrets? Mystery?
We explain that we want only to meet them and hear whatever they care to share with us, that we're not looking for secrets.
That's good, because I can tell you right now, there are no secrets. There's no mystery. There's only common sense.
He gets up, strides over to the cast iron stove, and warms his hands. Outside, a cold January wind is moaning, pelting the windows with dry, icy snow. We sit uneasily, sure he's about to send us packing into that bitter night. Still rubbing his hands, he sits down and faces us.
Common sense. I'll tell you guys a little bit about common sense. What law are you living under? United States government law? That's man's law. You break man's law and you pay a fine or go to jail, maybe. That's the way it is with man's law. You break it and you can still get around it. Maybe you won't get punished at all. Happens all the time. People figure they can get away with anything, and half the time they do. But they forget there's another law, the Creator's law. And we call it natural law. Natural law prevails everywhere, and it supersedes man's law. If you violate it, you get hit. There's no judge and jury, there are no lawyers or courts. You can't buy or dodge or beg your way out of it. If you violate this natural law, you're going to get hit and get hit hard. One of the natural laws is that you've got to keep things pure, especially the water. Keeping the water pure is one of the first laws of life. If you destroy the water, you destroy life. And that's what I mean about common sense. Anybody can see that. All life on Mother Earth depends on the pure water. Yet we spill every kind of dirt and filth and poison into it. And that makes no common sense at all. Your legislature can pass a law saying it's okay, but it's not okay. Natural law doesn't care about your man's law. Natural law is going to hit you, and you can't get out of the way. You don't fool around with natural law and get away with it. If you kill the water, you kill the life that depends on it, your own included. That's natural law. It's also common sense. Another of the natural laws is that all life is equal. That's our philosophy. You have to respect life, all life, not just your own. The key word is respect. Unless you respect the earth, you destroy it. Unless you respect all life as much as your own life, you become a destroyer, a murderer. Man sometimes thinks he's been elevated to be the controller, the ruler, but he's not. He's only a part of the whole. Man's job is not to exploit, but to oversee, to be a steward. Man has responsibility, not power. In our way of life, in our government, with every decision we make, we always keep in mind the seventh generation to come. It's our job to see that the people coming ahead, the generations still unborn, have a world no worse than ours, and hopefully better. When we walk upon Mother Earth, we always plant our feet carefully, because we know the faces of our future generations are looking up at us from beneath the ground. We never forget them.
Oren slips off into the shadows of the cabin and returns with a beaded wampum belt about 4 inches wide and 1.5 feet long.
This is a replica of the two-row wampum, the basis of our sovereignty. It's the grandfather of all the treaties between our two peoples. We made it with the Dutch in the early 1600s. The 2 rows of purple beads represent the red man and the white man living side by side in peace and friendship forever. The white background is a river. On that river of life, you travel in your boat and we travel in our canoe. Each of us is responsible for our own government and religion and way of life. We don't interfere with each other. The rows are parallel. One is not bigger. We're equal. We don't call each other father or son. We call each other brother. That's the way it's supposed to be between us. For as long as the grass grows and the water flows and the sun shines. Those words come from this treaty. We still believe them, and we're waiting for the white man to live up to his side. Right now he's hogging the middle of the river and pushing us aside. But we remember how it's supposed to be, how we agreed in the beginning when you were weak and we were strong. White man seems to have forgotten. But we've got a long memory, and so has the Creator. Our ancestors told us that there will come a time in the future when some of our people will put 1 foot in a canoe and 1 in a boat. That's a very precarious position to be in, and they foretold a great wind would rise and would tear the canoe and the boat away from each other. Then those people that have 1 foot in the canoe and 1 in the boat are going to fall into the river, and no power on this side of the creation can save them. We are the Haudenosaunee. That means people of the Longhouse. We are made up of 6 nations, each one of us equal. Each of us is sovereign, and we come together in a confederacy. Our business is peace, not war. In issues of peace and war and other major matters, we sit together and make our decisions. There is no single authority. We do not vote. We must reach a decision that everyone agrees with, and we have a method by which we arrive at that decision. We have a central fire. Each side of the fire has 1 speaker, and he
Hours